criticised for its role in destroying forests, may be ready to contribute a massive $7.5 billion to green development, and not from the World Bank, but in private deals with countries of its choosing.
Nearly every day we're reminded about environmental problems. Global warming, depletion of the ozone layer, acid rain, deforestation, pollution, biodiversity and resource depletion. Each phrase becoming common in today's conversation. But how do these problems actually affect us? Many of them don't. Yet. But global temperatures are already rising. Exhaust emissions from cars and lorries are unpleasant to many. Skin conditions caused by the sun are more common, and some species of animals and plants are becoming extinct. It's not hurting me, it's not hurting many of you, but it will harm future generations. Let's look at some of the issues. Global warming is caused mainly by carbon dioxide produced when gas, coal and oil are used. This builds up in the atmosphere, trapping the sun's heat, the greenhouse effect. So the Earth is getting hotter, polar ice caps starting to melt, sea levels beginning to rise, and climate changes likely in many parts of the world. Of course, there have been major climate changes in the past. Think of the ice ages. What's different now is that we are affecting the environment so fast that animal and plant life won't have time to adapt to the changes. Using fuels releases other pollutants into the air, causing acid rain and damaging our health and wildlife. Pollutants get into the water through the drains and through what farmers and gardeners put in the land. The result is that more and more has to be spent cleaning up our drinking water. The ozone layer, which protects us from harmful radiation from the sun, is being destroyed by man-made chemicals. Because of chemicals we've used in aerosols, fridges, fire extinguishers and solvents, more people are now getting skin cancer. We're losing more and more species of plants and animals. Their habitats are being destroyed by development or pollution. It's easy to think about saving the whale or the cuddly panda. What is often forgotten is the value of plants for medicines and their potential as a new and renewable source of fuel and chemicals. And because trees take up carbon dioxide, destroying forests adds to the greenhouse effect. When the minerals, oil and other fossil fuels have gone, there will be nothing left to make plastics and all the other special materials we use. And how will we make electricity or run vehicles?
What does that mean, Mummy?
I don't know.
How can we help?
I don't know.
Why don't you know, Mummy?
There's nothing we can do anyway.
Why can't we? Why? Why?
But we can do something about it. We can achieve a sustainable environment that can develop without a self-destruct mechanism. The way forward is summed up by our slogan, living today with tomorrow in mind. A baby born in Croydon today should live into the 2070s. Her grandchildren will be alive well into the 22nd century.
Well, obviously we'd like it to be cleaner, less pollution.
And there's a certain amount of open space as well. Having parks, green fields, places that she can go to and walk around that's safe.
Woodlands, safety is another.
Yeah, safety is something we haven't discussed.
And woodlands and sort of old places as well as new places, not just parks, created parks, not just man-made golf courses and things, some of the old places. I'd like there to be rainforests left in the world.
So what does this mean to the people of Croydon? Agenda 21 was one of the main outcomes of the Earth Summit at Rio in 1992. It sets out a programme of action to save the planet by showing how the world's governments should tackle the problems. Agenda 21 asks local authorities throughout the world to prepare local agendas with their communities.
Croydon Council is committed to working in partnership with the community towards sustainable development. I think this is the challenge of the next decade, of the next century. We as a council must take the lead, and although businesses and people within the borough have actively supported us so far, we really want to move forward to address matters such as air pollution, noise pollution, traffic congestion and recycling, so that the future of our planet can be given over to future generations. Croydon must take the lead. We hope to take the lead in the next century, and I hope that people, the length and breadth of the borough and businesses will support us in this venture.
One of the most important areas to consider is energy. Think of the fuel that's used to generate the power for our shops, offices and homes. The power stations that generate this energy mostly burn fossil fuels, giving off carbon dioxide and wasting heat unnecessarily in the process. Much more is wasted because buildings are poorly insulated and we don't think about how much energy we're using. Turning down the heating thermostat by just 2 degrees may hardly be noticed, but will save an enormous amount of energy and reduce your heating bills.
It's quite clear that the best value starts with insulating lofts, moves on to insulating cavity walls, and is finally covered by double glazing. Approximately 15% of the cost of double glazing a house will almost certainly be adequate to provide cavity wall insulation. And because it's so much less money, it's a reward that's very quickly repaid. But even less money than that will be required to insulate a loft, and that is certainly the fastest return on any investment in insulation in your property. So my recommendation would be insulate your loft, do the cavity wall insulation, and then if you really have the funds available, do the double glazing.
Pollution is the cause of many of the problems we now have to face. Traffic is a major cause of air pollution.
When the weather's hot and the air quality is poor, then we undoubtedly see an increase in both the incidence of asthma and also we see more severe cases that have required hospital admission. So there's no doubt that air quality is playing its part in those cases. In addition, we had, when the weather was hot, we saw a lot of people who were working in the city and commuting, coming home really suffering with their asthma, and we treated a lot of people with that problem. So it certainly seemed that the air quality in the city was causing them problems, and that's likely to be the case wherever there's a lot of traffic, I would imagine.
Although we don't have many watercourses in Croydon, what we use in our homes may end up polluting the water somewhere. For example, phosphates in many washing powders will end up in rivers and the sea.
All of us in our homes can affect our local environment. With respect to the water environment, all the water that goes down the surface water drains, that is the drains from the roof and the roads, will end up in our watercourses. So we need to make sure that all our sinks and washing machines are plumbed in to the right sewer. That is the foul sewer, the one that goes to the sewage works. If any polluting matter goes down the surface water drain, it can do harm to our environment.
In understanding how much treatment drinking water needs to bring it up to modern standards, it's important to understand where that water is coming from. And in this country, most of the water used for public supplies comes from rivers, about 80%, with the remainder coming from a variety of underground sources. Obviously, the water coming from rivers needs more intensive treatment than that from the underground.
The amount of water is important. The aquifer, that is the water-bearing rock beneath us, only has a limited amount of water, and we are beginning to see that there will be problems in the future from taking too much water from that water-bearing rock.
Croydon residents each produce over 1/4 of a tonne of rubbish. This adds up to 90,000 tonnes of waste each year. Handling waste consumes energy and causes pollution. It is then dumped in a landfill site.
It's really amazing what people throw away. We're recycling more, but there is just so much waste. All of Croydon's rubbish goes to a landfill site in Pitsea, Essex. It's transported by road, and so valuable oil is used and air pollution is caused. But much more importantly, most of our waste was made using lots of energy and valuable raw materials. These precious resources are just dumped in landfill and take a long time to break down, during which time they produce dangerous gases and poisonous liquids. Therefore, it's absolutely vital that we minimise our waste by, for instance, reducing as much as possible, reject overpackaged goods, try and buy compact packets of, for instance, washing powder, reuse as much as possible, repair as much as possible, and of course recycle. 50% of household waste is recyclable, and of course we can recycle our kitchen and garden waste as well, and this will produce a good compost for your garden. And we need to try and buy recycled products so that we provide a market for the materials we collect.
There are about 129,000 cars in Croydon. If you park them all together, they take up the space of about 230 football pitches. Or if parked nose to tail, a queue 366 miles long. These cars produce over 415,000 tonnes of carbon dioxide yearly. That's more than 3 tonnes each. Sometimes it's hard to imagine how we could manage without our personal transport, which can add so much to the comfort and convenience of life.
My car is essential to me, being a single parent and holding down a full-time job. I work very unsociable hours and the car plays a very important part for me to get into work. I cannot rely on public transport because of the times I work, and even if I do decide to travel in the daytime, having a child, it's very impractical to travel with my child, so the car plays a very important part in my social life and working life and as a single parent.
Right, yeah, I have to admit to being a car user, and I ask myself the question why I use the car. I've got to admit that I've got no special reason for using it. I use it simply because it's parked outside the door, and I don't actually ever think about it.
I'm a car driver, yes. Basically my car is my legs. I can't go anywhere sort of without it. It's my life. Without a car, I'd be completely and utterly immobile.
But many people do manage.
Well, I actually chose to live in Croydon because I work in central London. I wanted somewhere that was really close by public transport, and it's only 15 minutes up to Victoria. So my journey in the morning actually only takes me 45 minutes door to door, and that's a really easy way to actually travel. You can read your book on the train and you get into work with no hassles, stress-free, and coming home it's the same as well. It's really easy way to actually travel.
I enjoy walking around. I think a lot of people rely on their cars just for short journeys. and perhaps nowadays a lot of school children are driven to school, whereas in my time I had to walk to school.
I do have a car, but I find that for most purposes a bicycle is an easy and quick form of covering a short journey. I cycle to work because I find that it doesn't take me any longer than with a car, particularly in peak periods. The journey is just about the same as with the car, and I don't have the aggravation of the hold-ups, the aggression and the stop-start processes.
All our activities can have an impact on the natural environment, the consumption of natural resources, the effect of habitat destruction, and the damage to flora and fauna caused by pollution.
Before we started the project to create the South Norwood Country Park from what had been the council sewage farm at the turn of the century, it was large open fields with big ridges in them to direct the sewage effluent. We've created wetland habitats in particular because it's a type of habitat which is quite rare in Croydon. We have some of the finest chalk grasslands and ancient woodlands and the most important heathland in the London area, but the one thing we're really short of is wet habitats. Although we've concentrated on wetland habitats, we have planted quite a lot of trees. This is for several reasons. They screen the park from the surrounding area. They absorb carbon dioxide, which is always important in the age of the motor car. And because we started creating the park quite soon after the storms of 1987, when a lot of trees came down. And in fact, this dipping platform is made from trees that fell in 1987 because we have used the timber of all the trees that were suitable to make park furniture for all different places in the borough.
Any British hardwood tree, if it's cut down to the base, will regrow, and every 20 years we can take off a sustainable, renewable harvest of wood. We're looking at converting some of this wood into charcoal. Now during the winter we can cut down the wood, stack it up. During the summer we can convert that to charcoal and supply some of the local stores, which we are planning to do. We have been working with the Parks Depot in Croydon. We've introduced a new technology to bring this traditional industry, this industry with a great heritage in this country, the charcoal making industry, up into the 20th century and take us on into the 21st century. It's a way of generating employment, putting money back into the woodlands and offering a local, sustainably produced alternative to imports which are currently coming from tropical forest.
We have tried in this short video to give you an idea of some of the issues and concerns about the environment. So what can we do about it now? What do you think?